All right, welcome to Friday's edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Please be sure to follow me on social media at The Carl Jackson Show. That's Twitter, Facebook, True Social, Instagram, anywhere where you can find me on social media. The Carl Jackson Show will be where you find me. Also, remember to please subscribe to the podcast everywhere podcasts are found. TheCarlJacksonShow.com, SalemPodcastNetwork.com, or Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, you name it. God bless every single one of you for tuning in. Today, I think, is a very important show. This is a topic that I think more Americans need to be discussing, and that is this. If the skilled trades in America go bye-bye because they are essential, we go bye-bye as a nation, we go bye-bye as a free people, and we are no longer an independent nation, but a dependent nation. I want to get into this because I think it's timely for Father's Day, and I think it's timely for the globalist threat that we are facing with the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, and so on. That's coming up on this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast.
Redeemed, rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
All right, again, thank you for tuning in today. I can't get my words straight. I want to get right into this. So I read a column in AM Greatness, and it is one of the best columns that I've read in quite some time, particularly for people like myself who are really listen, I want to build up the middle class. I think that we need, as Charlie Kirk says, we need the muscular class. We need the muscular class, the manufacturing class, if you will, to come back to America. We don't need to be shipping jobs overseas. And I'm going to go through this story with you, or through this column with you. And I want to prove to you that America has overinvested in college education at the expense of our freedom and liberty. It is actually, with more and more people attending college, not only is America getting dumber, lazier, and less dependent, it is a national security threat. Hat tip AM Greatness, the column is called Why the Skilled Trades Are Essential for a Free People. It was written by a guy by the name of Ben Boychuk. We're going to have to get this guy on, Gabe. This is a fascinating read. First, I want to give you an example. I'm going to talk about Air Force One and what role skilled trades play in that. And then we're going to just go through this column because I want you to think about this. Well, there's got to be a cultural shift and a mind shift inside of the United States to go back to the days where we developed skilled trades, even with the advent of technology, including AI. I'll explain why. The column starts off like this. The Government Accountability Office on Wednesday revealed, now this is last week now, I intended to talk about this on Dennis Prager's show when I filled in, but didn't get to it. But this is very important. So again, the Government Accountability Office on Wednesday revealed that Boeing is having trouble finding qualified workers for its nearly $5 billion Air Force One project. Thanks to the COVID-related delays and retirements, the project is understaffed and it's behind schedule. The aviation giant has already lost $1.1 billion. You guys may recall that Trump sealed a deal in 2018 for a fixed price of $3.9 billion, and that's actually for 2 jets. The problem is with COVID delays and the shipping delays and shortages, the project won't be done until 2025. Now, that puts us in a bad predicament, right? Because the material costs are going to go up. And you can't just have anybody working on Air Force One, right? It's not just a warm-blooded job anyone could walk up to and take. Obviously, the job of building Air Force One, or both of them, there's huge security implications. So it just can't be Johnny come lately or Dick and Jane just walking in to fill out a job application. It just doesn't work like that. It requires skill. It requires a lot of scrutiny when it comes to this particular project, an in-depth background check, security check, so on, etc. All right, so now this is a quote according to the government, or from the Government Accountability Office, and they say, quote, employees must meet stringent security requirements to work on the VC 25B program, that is Air Force One, basically, because of its presidential mission, close quote. Then they go on to say VC 25B, again, Air Force One project, official said that Boeing continues to work with the program office to improve the pre-screening process for applicants to ensure timely processing of security clearances. Now, the GEO had explained this to Congress on the Pentagon's sundry weapons system when they went before Congress. So would-be workers of Air Force One get tons of scrutiny that you and I wouldn't get for normal jobs, even for a career, if you will. And in many cases, they want to know if you've been arrested. They want to know if you've ever smoked pot in your life, right? They don't want anything to get in the way. They'll even, and if you lie about it, you'll get in trouble, because not only are they going to ask you, literally, when you're dealing with the president's security, they're going to go around and ask every friend and neighbor that you grew up around whether or not you're telling the truth. Now, here's an even bigger problem, according to the columnist. The special circumstances aside, he says, Boeing's workforce challenges speaks to a much greater problem. The fact is, aviation workers, again, aren't just some random Johnny-come-lately off the streets. They're not just some warm-blooded American with wrenches. That is a specialized skill to work in aviation. They are highly skilled workers in a highly specialized industry. The columnist says people with the sort of skills Boeing needs are a rare commodity who often command higher salaries, higher wages, higher pay. So the problem that we have is, in America now, we have a skilled worker deficit. A skilled worker deficit. So now there's plenty of work, but not enough workers, he says. Let me get into this. I'm going to read some stats to you. For years now, at least since the Great Recession that occurred back in 2008 under George W. Bush at the time, America has had far more job openings than it has qualified workers to fill those jobs. Lots of jobs, not enough qualified workers to fill those jobs. The pandemic obviously made matters worse. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports 11.4 million jobs that were available at the end of April of this year. That's down 455,000, they claim, over the previous month of March. But at the same time, businesses hired only 6.6 million workers, similar to the month before. Now, what's the problem? Biden is trying to take credit for, oh man, all these jobs are coming back. And no. We still have fewer workers in the workforce than we had before the pandemic. So all of the numbers that Biden cites, the guy is a complete and utter liar, a perpetual liar. The numbers that he's citing for or unemployment numbers are people that are finally coming back to the workforce. No thanks to him, and no thanks to the spending, the astronomical spending that has gotten into this inflation mess that we're experiencing now, and it's going to get worse, unfortunately. But I go on. Real employment is at 7.1%. Considering what we've gone through with this pandemic, the lockdown, so on, etc., 7.1% isn't necessarily bad, but it's not good either. Here's the bad news. The labor participation rate is as bad as it's ever been, according to the columnist, hovering about around 62.3%. Now, for those of you that may not know what the labor participation force rate is what it's normally called, is that's how many people are actually in the labor force, all right, that are 16 years or older. So there's, out of 100% of people that are 16 years of age and older that can work, only 62.3% of us are. That is insane. Millions of Americans who could work simply don't. That's the predicament that we're in today. That has left certain industries such as construction, manufacturing, and pharmaceuticals struggling to hire qualified talent. Now, and I'll get into this again, there's been an overinvestment in college at the expense of our trades and at the expense of national security. So some of you, unfortunately, the culture has gone this way. You think of construction and you look down at people that may do hard labor type jobs or construction type jobs. That's going to hurt us in the long run. We're going to need skilled workers that can do this type of work. I'll get into this further. And manufacturing, of course. Globalization is killing America. It is killing America. This, too, in my opinion, is why China is such a threat. Not only do they hate us, not only are they communists, not only are they trying to be the big dog, if you will, in the world, but we've given up a lot of our trade secrets to them and our trade skills. We've had Americans and corporations that have sold out America to go to China, and China in turn says, okay, you can make money here. We're going to steal all of your ideas, and eventually we're going to dump you, and we're going to learn how to produce this stuff ourselves. It's getting us in major trouble. Now, going back to this issue, 62.3% of people in the labor force, there should be much more, obviously. So again, we've got construction, manufacturing, even pharmaceuticals, people that are or industries that are struggling to hire people. Almost all of these jobs require particular skills. Many of them can be learned without the need of a college diploma. Now, here's the problem. This is why I say that we've overinvested in college to our detriment. There's no doubt that some people should be in college. Science, technology, engineering, math. Obviously, if you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, it is important and crucial for you to get some type of, extensive training. But that isn't the case for most Americans. To be frank, there should be a very small percentage of people that exist within the labor force that have those trades, that have those skills, that have gone to college and maybe gotten a master's, PhD, perhaps for an extended period of time. But far too many people are going to college and taking a bunch of crap and nonsense that will do nothing to help America or themselves in the future. All right, so now, the last 3 decades, parents and cultural trends have overemphasized 4-year degrees to our detriment at the expense of skilled trades that could be taught at, or that are taught at community colleges, trade schools, etc., programs that could be done in 1 year to 2 years, where you get out and not only do you have a sustainable career and a well-paying career, but it goes to helping America as a whole and our national security. Very important. Very important. A person could learn again at a community college, vocational school, 1 to 2 years. So people not everyone needs to go to college, essentially, is what I'm saying. There's people like Mike Rowe. You guys know Mike Rowe with the show Dirty Jobs. He's done tons to speak out on this issue and talk about that issue. But even with people as names as large and as big as Mike Rowe, you've seen from the time that he started his, I think it's called, I forget exactly what it's called. His foundation basically goes to give people scholarships to get into trades that are going to essentially save America. These jobs that we forget that really make America run. And at the time that he started his foundation, this was over 10 years ago. I've heard him in several interviews mention this. At that time, there were about 2.4 million unfilled jobs for skilled laborers. Today, that number is 11.4. Even fewer people are filling these jobs that are essential to make our society run. It's absolutely astounding to me. So the message has been: do your homework, stay in school, you'll end up digging ditches or for a living. Put somewhat differently, the columnist says, why be a sweaty plumber or an electrician when you could pursue a glamorous career in business or advertising or the visual arts? Let me pause. Let me ask you this question. If, let's say, we were to sustain some type of attack from China, one of our enemies, where electricity goes out, where our infrastructure goes out, are you going to hope that there's some kid on YouTube that's around to fix the system? Or are you going to hope that there's an electrician, a plumber, so on, etc.? Guys, we are putting ourselves at risk by no longer advocating, promoting some of these skills, some of these trades. listen to this, nearly 60% of all jobs in the U.S. now require a college degree. 60% of all jobs in the U.S. now require a college degree. But here's the problem. So many people go to college now, they get out, they can't even get in the industry in which they went to school for because some of the degrees are stupid. So you have so many people now that went to school as to be whatever they wanted to be, and it wasn't necessarily specialized. So they come out and they're cashiers, they're customer service reps, they're baristas across the country. If you study philosophy or political science, unless you're going to become an author, unless you are extremely motivated, it's hard to find jobs that are obviously going to cater to that field, unless you plan to be in academia and the field or the career of theory for your entire life. But this is what's happening. More and more Americans are investing in college unnecessarily so, and it's actually causing more damage to the country, less national security, and more poverty. We're putting resources, according to the columnist, we're putting resources and placing emphasis in the wrong places. There's an economist by the name of Richard Vedder. He argued more than a decade ago, that is, before the nation's mounting student loan debt crisis, which Joe Biden forgave some of those, but that was really unfair. What about all of you that paid for your student loan or paid it off, and yet you didn't get that benefit, but some did? Joe Biden wanted to make a move strictly for political expediency. And that was such an unfair move. These people, college graduates that are going to make more over their lifetime than most other people, and sometimes hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars. Well, Joe Biden just gave some a free ride. That's the left for you. But anyway, this guy, Richard Vedder, an economist, argued basically that the mounting student loan debt crisis became a high-profile political cause in the United States, and as a result of our over-interest in higher education. So now we have the student loan debt crisis. 17 million Americans have bachelor's degrees, and they are doing jobs that they are overqualified for today. Some are doing jobs that require less skills and associated with the degree. Over 317,000 waiters and waitresses have college degrees. Over 8,000 of them have doctoral or professional degrees, along with over 80,000 bartenders, 18,000 parking lot attendants. This is insane. So people are going to college, paying for degrees that are completely worthless, going into debt, and now to survive, they've got to take jobs that are jobs that don't fit their level of skill. Honestly, these are the jobs that they should have been taking to pay for their own college. So we don't need bartenders with PhDs, but here's what we do need. We do need good plumbers. We do need pipe fitters. We do need electricians. We do need steel workers. We need welders. We need fabricators. We need machinists. And some of you are thinking, well, listen, we're getting away from this stuff because of AI. Au contraire, mon frere, the robots and equipment that are going to be needed even for AI are going to require specialized people, just like I mentioned. Yet we're moving away from this. This is insane. We're shooting ourselves in the foot. There can be no substitute for human judgment, according to this columnist. Even with AI, no substitute for human judgment, flawed as it always may be. All right, now let me show you, give you another example how we're held hostage by our own ignorance and our overinvestment in college. Consider the Colonial pipeline. You guys remember that? Do you guys remember last year it was the Colonial pipeline ransomware attack? It happened in May of last year. Russian hackers used a compromised password to insert malware into the system of the vulnerable computer network, or whatever you call it, forcing the company to shut down its entire 5,500-mile network of pipeline that serves much of the East Coast. So the stoppage, you may recall, I'm reading from the column here. I'm sorry. The stoppage disrupted fuel deliveries for 5 days. So commuters lined up for miles to pump ration gasoline as a result of that pipeline breach or being hacked. Airline flights were canceled or they had to be rerouted in order to fuel up, all that kind of good stuff. And then they had to pay out. The pipeline, the CEO had to pay out in order to get the pipeline back online because it was hurting us. You know, they had to pay out $4.4 million. Guys, I want to play a video for you just really quickly. This is Joe Biden. I feel like this is fitting right now. And I just want you to understand everything that's being done with these gas prices are being done on purpose. So I want to play this video for you. And then I want to get right back to what I'm talking about here, because this is important. You have to understand how essential fossil fuels are to this economy, to our national security. It makes no sense for us to go and drill for fossil fuels elsewhere when it's going to hurt us here. No sense whatsoever. But that's exactly what's happening. So here's the video. We'll play this and then I'll get right back to this.
But kiddo, I want you to just take a look, okay? You don't have to agree, but I want you to look in my eyes. I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel, and I am not going to cooperate.
All right, what an idiot. So this guy is doing this intentionally, and it's hurting us. It's hurting our national security. It's hurting jobs. To demonize natural fossil fuels for man-made electric batteries that do far more damage to the environment is just stupid. This stuff is going to hurt America in the end. If you've been duped and you've fallen for the lie that EVs are somehow safer for the environment than natural fossil fuels, you really need to do some serious research and stop believing these people that want to lie to you and globalize, these globalists that want to weaken America. So this Colonial pipeline, they paid out $4.4 million. Why did they do it? It wasn't just because they got hacked, but it's because they said that they told the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee that part of the problem was, and I'm quoting from the CEO, that most of the men who could operate the controls on the pipeline have either died or retired. So that 5,500-mile line must rely almost wholly upon computerized systems for its operation. So we're vulnerable because we don't have enough able-bodied men that can work these pipelines. That means, of course, he says that we are vulnerable to attacks by people who do not have to take a guard at gunpoint or dig a big hole somewhere that no one will notice, quote, close quote. And then here's an author. This is an author by the name of Essalon. He writes, our technology has progressed to the point where for a time we can get away with running things on the cheap and the irresponsible, close quote. And he adds, this is quite shocking development when you think about it, as skills are lost and essential trades turn into these weird niche professions. America risks forgetting how to keep the gears of civilization turning, and not just figuratively speaking. He says, a nation that can't make or maintain things is not an independent nation. Let me say that again. A nation that cannot make or maintain things is not an independent nation. So let me talk about our manufacturing crisis. In May of 2021, Big Four accounting firm Deloitte reported that the, quote, manufacturing industry netted a loss of 578,000 jobs during the pandemic challenged year of 2020, a figure that represents nearly 6 years of job gains. And yet, at any given moment in the past 6 months, nearly 500,000 jobs have remained open in manufacturing, close quote. The report forecasted 2.1 million unfulfilled U.S. manufacturing jobs by 2030. I think it'll be worse, potentially. Many manufacturers struggle even to find people for entry-level positions, which do not require special skills, just people that are capable of listening and willing to learn and to work hard. So finding talent has gotten even worse through after the lockdowns and the pandemic. Deloitte says there's no indication whether this trend will reverse. In fact, the U.S. manufacturing executives, the firm surveyed, said that they believe finding the right talent is now 36% harder. That is a really weird number, really precise, than it was pre-pandemic. Executives fret openly over what options they may soon face. Quote, is there a point when we run out of production workers, or a point when we have to consider moving to a different location? Close quote. Now, when they say different location, they mean out of state, overseas. So what happened? So no single factor can be pinpointed to necessarily, but one of the things that happened in the 80s and the 90s, we eliminated virtually anyway apprenticeships. Apprenticeship programs. That was a way of cutting costs for corporations. But now these corporations have learned to regret it because they can't find people today to fill these positions. Everybody wants to be a star on social media, and no one has any freaking skills besides working an iPhone or an Android. It's insane. Manufacturing jobs peaked in 1979. So profound changes in the economy played a role too. Again, the jobs peaked. Manufacturing jobs peaked at 19.6 million. And this was in June of 1979. And they've been on the wane ever since. They've been on the wane. We've had these obsessions with free trade agreements and all this kind of stuff, and this widespread globalization, which at one point in time I thought, hey, man, this sounds like a good idea. I didn't realize, I was too naive to understand that it meant we were cutting out American jobs, American skills. I'm thinking, okay, there's something that we can't get here, so we got to trade. No, we were literally shipping our jobs and our skills away, and we are. The Great Recession wiped out 2.8 million manufacturing jobs alone, many of which never came back or took years to return. Now, automation has played a role. Jobs previously filled by humans have been supplanted by robots, and you're going to see more of that while lefties are demanding that people and corporations pay more, small business owners pay more. They can't afford, especially in a looming recession here. So you're going to see more automation. These machines, they don't give you attitude. They don't take coffee breaks. They don't require a pension plan. None of that stuff. Now, here's another problem that happened. How did we get here? We got rid of shop class. You guys remember shop class, metal shop, wood shop, all this kind of stuff, even mechanic shop. Even when I was going to high school, they still had these in place. It is hard. They are a rare commodity nowadays. You can't find them. But these shops taught people, particularly young men, how to fix stuff. How to weld, how to use a bandsaw, how to use a blowtorch. You can't find that stuff. I love watching some of these skilled shows on television where I used to love watching American Choppers. I like watching anything where guys and even some gals are fixing up and putting together cars or restoring cars. And I look at these people and I'm like, man, they're such a rarity that they get TV shows. They do well. Look at, American Choppers back in the day. One show that I really like now, or a couple of shows, Counting Cars, Texas Metal, some of these people that restore and build these cars. And it fascinates me because I know those skills are so crucial in times of need and in trouble. These are the people that can work with their hands, that can think as well and put stuff together, are going to be the ones that are able to save America, especially if there was some type of attack from an enemy of ours. But doing away with shop class hurt us big time. George W. Bush's No Child Left Behind. You guys remember that. At the time, it sounded good to me. No Child Left Behind, of course. We want more people to be able to read, write, and do arithmetic. That is true. We want more minorities and women in college and all this kind of stuff. That sounds great. But the problem is we've done it at the expense of losing our trades. Now people look down on trades, and you got so many people, again, graduating with college debt. It's insane. And some of the jobs are completely useless. Our degrees are completely useless. Then there are lawmakers and education reform. Experts didn't realize, it didn't occur to them that these policy reforms, that these educational reforms would hurt us. And then you also have to consider, when you consider trades, you have to consider baby boomers. You have to consider fatherlessness in America. The columnist says baby boomer retirements also have removed the invaluable experience and institutional memory that are essential to fostering new generations of tradesmen and craftsmen, and incalculable loss. Related, however, is the problem of widespread fatherlessness and family disintegration among the generations that followed the boom. For those of us of a certain age who did have fathers helping our dads get the tools, rotate tires, change oil, replace worn brakes, were annoying at the time, but they were vital rites of passage. This is stuff that we needed to learn, but now we're not learning that stuff. That's become practically impossible, they say, now as modern auto repair has become the near exclusive province of computer experts and coveralls. And that is so true. I mean, even getting a car fixed today, men used to be able to look underneath their hoods. Now they're making everything so technologically advanced that only a very few people can even learn the skill. It's insane. But it turns out men are not disposable after all. This is good news for you fathers coming up on Father's Day. You actually are important. Your curiosities, your bents are actually important, not just to your families, but to our national security. It's amazing. Maybe the skilled trades, they say, the columnist talks about a full knowledge of the economy. Maybe the skilled trades now are simply jobs Americans won't do. If so, why not simply import those workers or outsource those jobs, or both? That's what we've said. The trouble is, that's exactly what we've been doing for nearly 4 decades now, all but obliterating the middle class along the way, as America has become more of a faux knowledge economy. We've successfully dumbed down at least 2 generations of people who can't change a tire, who can't boil an egg, who can't balance a checkbook. The good news is apparently more people are sewing. We produce millions upon millions of well-credentialed but poorly educated, atomized people who need constant validation through screens and who recoil from the slightest hint of risk. That is so true. Americans have become more dependent and less self-sufficient as a result of moving away from these trade skills. That stuff builds your confidence. What are ordinary people once made? What ordinary people once made, they now buy. That's overwhelmingly so. Matthew B. Crawford writes in a book called Shop Class is Soulcraft. It was written in 2009. He writes, again, what ordinary people once made, they now buy, because we lack the skills to do just that. Crawford himself is a master motorcycle mechanic with a PhD in political philosophy from the University of Chicago. He argues that a passive consumer ethos has transformed Americans' habits of freedom into habits of conformity and alienation. By restoring a culture in which the trades are again lauded as respectable and even honorable work, we might begin to restore some of the older, better habits of freedom and self-government. The goal, or one goal at least, should be to achieve, quote, a sociable individuality, close quote, that recognizes we possess rights and duties and accepts that, quote, we are basically dependent beings, one upon another, and each on a world that is not of our making. With that in mind, Crawford writes, the special appeal of the trades lies in the fact that they resist a tendency toward remote control, because they are inherently situated in a particular context. In the best cases, the building and fixing that they do are embedded in a community of using. Face-to-face interactions are still the norm. You are responsible for your own work, and clear standards provide the basis for the solidarity of the crew, as opposed to the manipulative social relations of the office team, quote unquote. There are surely other kinds of work that I am unacquainted with where these goods can be realized. It remains for others to explore them, he says. So now, here are some alternative paths to meaningful work. We have to change some of the laws, some of the regulation. To change the current culture, it will be necessary to change some laws. Bringing back shop classes would be a good start, the columnist says, and probably a tall order, no doubt about it. Loosening other rules might offer young people alternative paths to meaningful work without requiring a 4-year degree and attendant mountain of debt. He talks about his son who wanted to get into forensic science, who wants to be a forensic scientist, going around looking at crime scenes. So he figured a good idea would be to go and check out mortuaries, morgues, and ask them if he could, serve an apprenticeship there. He got turned down from several morgues because they require all of these classifications just to go and be an apprentice there. So the people that have the skills can't even necessarily just bring you on and train you. You have to go through the middleman that the government put in place with all of this regulation in order to learn how to deal with bodies. This is how we're destroying America with skilled trades. Even in the death business. This is crazy. So now his son works for a distribution warehouse. He says one of the big ones, and his son is learning how to fix on robotics and systems there. So, because he got turned down from working on morgues, he may still go into the forensic scientist, but now he's really interested in logistics and learning how to use his hands to fix on these pieces of equipment that we're going to need and people are going to know how to do. Yet we're starting to look down. We as Americans, far too many, because we've over-invested in college at the expense of skilled trades. We look down on these trades. And frankly, these trades are going to be the ones, along with engineering, no doubt, and science and technology. But along with those, skilled trades are going to be what we need to survive, are the type of people that we need around. Let's stop looking down on these skilled trades and let's start talking to our kids about them instead of sending them to college to get a degree in political science or philosophy where they're not going to make any money and they're going to come out and end up being a waiter or waitress who probably makes more money, frankly, where they can do those jobs. This makes no sense. Tell your son to go work as a plumber's apprentice. Tell your son or daughter even to go try out working as an electrician. These are skills that are going to always be valuable and highly needed and highly in demand. And we need more people that can do them, not fewer, or we're going to be stuck like Chuck because we're going to have a bunch of people still looking at their iPhones and interested in the new technology that can't build crap, that can't make anything. Guys, the skilled trades are essential for a free people. Think about it. Guys, have a happy Father's Day. God bless you all. I appreciate you for tuning in. Again, please make sure subscribe to my podcast, thecarljacksonshow.com, thesalempodcastnetwork.com, anywhere podcasts are found, Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, you name it. Also, please follow me on social media, The Carl Jackson Show, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, True Social, Getter, you name it. Anywhere that I can be found on social media, The Carl Jackson Show. Please like, subscribe, share. We would certainly appreciate it. I know this gets annoying, but we need to grow. We want to spread the message of freedom. We are bringing you objective truth in a world of lies, and we want to continue to be able to do so. Until next time, don't grow weary doing good, and God bless you.